Wisconsin linemen over the years?
Well, yeah, I think the first part of it, I think they're naturally tough guys, and I don't know if it's from the state of Wisconsin or just the Big Ten in general, but I think a lot of those guys are very tough, which I think you have to be to play offensive line in the NFL. And Joe as an exception because he's a tough kid, but he's also a really good athlete. So, but I think the toughness is a big part of it.
Tom, how did Chris Gocon's conversion from an outside linebacker standpoint work playing inside last season?
Chris played very well for us. He really did, and we and when I was in Philadelphia, we actually moved him a little bit inside at the end of his career there, and so it wasn't that big of a transition for him with us, but he did a very good job for us, and we're still kind of waiting to see exactly how the linebacker situation is going to pan out for us. If I think he can play really all three positions, but he did play very well inside for us. I think he can play either one. I really do, and he's a good football player, and so I don't think it's going to be a problem to play the one or the three. And if depending on what happens with the rest of the players we get, if we may just go left and right, and so they have to play both. So, but I don't think he'll have any problem with that at all.
Tom, what kind of offensive coordinator was Brian Dayball for you? And just talk about what he brings.
Brian he's a very good football coach. He really is. He worked his butt off. I think he was very inventive with some of the stuff. I know in Miami with the Wildcat stuff, but we did an awful lot of that in Cleveland as well. So I do think he's a very good offensive coordinator, and I think he'll do a great job down there.
How do you weigh some of these guys this year that are kind of one-year wonders? How important or
Well, yeah, I mean it is. It's something you have to consider. Obviously, if they performed well for that 1 year, that's a good thing. But you have to really kind of dig into why they weren't performing that way or why they weren't even playing up to that point. But I think you can probably look too much into that because obviously, if you played the whole year, you at least have a whole year of film to watch. So I don't think it's that big of a deal.
would that be enough to prove you deserve to be like the draft?
Well, yeah, I mean, you would obviously like him to be a 4-year guy and get more exposure to him, but I wouldn't rule anybody out just because they only played 1 year.
Tom, with the disclaimer in place that it's multiple your guy, you went through Mark said that you would give anything for Kevin Cobb. Has your opinion on Kevin changed?
My opinion on Kevin, and I got to be careful talking about that. Kevin's a very good football player, but Colt is, we think Colt's a great football player as well. So we're happy with Colt. We expect Colt to improve, and I think he'll have a good career for us.
Tom, you drafted Sean Jackson. How do guys like Janelle Jernigan and Jeremy Curley kind of compare and what he's looking for build this offense?
Well, I mean, I think you have to. There's some similarities. Obviously, Deshaun's a great football player, but those guys, I think Deshaun played a little more outside than some of these other guys have strictly played in the slot. But that's not saying they can't play outside. But it's something you have to consider when you're talking about guys that only played in the slot. They have not played outside, and the spread offense that we're seeing in college so much. It's where a lot of these guys are catching balls 2-3 yards off the line of scrimmage and then doing stuff after. So you don't get to see them run a whole lot of routes that they're going to have to run in the NFL. So at the combine and at the workout, that's going to be big to see if they can run those routes.
Hey, Tom, without saying how you might fit in with the Browns specifically, Casey Matson, can you talk about what kind of linebacker you
Obviously he comes from a pretty good a line of bloodlines there, but he's a good football player. He really is, and I think he's a tough kid. He can run. So I mean, to say he's anywhere like his brother and everybody else, that's probably not the greatest thing to say right now and put that pressure on him. But he's got a chance to be a good football player.
How important is that bloodlines thing? I mean, you said family history. How much does that factor into when you're doing evaluations?
I mean, I wouldn't. It's not obviously a negative if you don't have that, but if you have that, it's a positive. Mark Ingram's a guy that I was associated with at Miami when I was back in Miami. Pat Shurmur actually played with Mark Ingram's father, and so I think it's a. Obviously it's a very positive thing if you came from a football family, and I think you have to put a little bit of like. Not only if your father played, but if your father was a coach. I think that, if you've been around the game your whole life, I think it can do nothing but help you.
Tom, do you eventually see Sheldon Brown moving forward?
Not in the near future, no. We really haven't talked about it, but I think that's something he could do. But, right now he's going to stay at corner.
Tom, Robert Quinn missed 2010, obviously, because he was suspended. Does that make him more of a risk because you don't have that season and the last time he
Yeah, I don't know if it's a risk. It's be very similar to a guy that was hurt and didn't play and or missed 5 or 6 games. It's it's obviously less exposure you have on a kid, and I think you have to make your own judgments on what exactly happened and whatever scenario it is, whether it's an injury, whether it's a suspension, whether whatever. And if the guys are in shape and if they've played well in the past when they actually played, it's unfortunate, but I don't think it's you could look at it as a positive too, where he's not taking a year of beating. So I don't think it's that big of a deal.
We're getting all the D linemen in here today. Is there one or two things you look specifically for at the end or the tackle?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think everybody's looking for pass rushers, and if you could rush a passer, you can probably live with giving up a little bit as a run player. Especially in a 4-3, 3-4. I think defensive end, that's your deal. You're stopping the run, and you're probably giving up a little bit less pass rush. So, I think athletic. We want to get athletic, and so we're probably at the end, we're probably not going to be looking for the huge guy. We're not going to need the huge guys. We can live with a little undersized guys, and I think there's a lot of those guys in this draft.
Still feel like the philosophy is you guys had in Philly, who's got like Trent Cole, 6'1", 250, that body type?
Well, I obviously the ideal is a 6'5" guy that can do it, but I do think there's a lot of really good players that aren't the ideal size, and the Trent Coles of the world, the guys that play hard and are relentless, those are the guys you're looking for. And I do think that if you don't have a 6'5" guy, which is like the ideal size for a defensive end, you can survive with those undersized guys just because they play so hard and they can rush a passer. But I think in the perfect world, you want the bigger the better. He'd be a defensive tackle for us. Yep. So he'd be either one, the 1 or the 3 technique. No, I don't. I think he'd be fine either one. I really do.
He said he might be the safest of those top linemen. Do you see it like that?
Safest is I think it's, you're probably going to, if you talk to 10 people, they might have him rated 10 different ways. I think he's a good football player. And, safest, I don't know if that's a great word to use. Some of the things I talked about, he's relentless. He plays hard. I think he spent a lot of time this year with a high ankle sprain, and he played through it. And he's a high motor guy, and he does not stop, and he makes a ton of plays for a defensive tackle. Yeah, we're working, going at this like it's going to be the same as it always is, and we're prepared for anything that happens, but we're not worried about it. It's 30. Yeah, it's the same exact rules as last year. Yes, so you can bring 30 players into for physicals. Yes. No, not at all. I think he's a tough player, and he really is. And I guess there's a fine line. I had a fortunate to have John Runyon play for us in Philadelphia for a long time, and some people called him dirty, but he's a tough player. And tell you what, those guys, they play hard but they don't. It's not after the whistle stuff and anything. So hey, I think it's more toughness than being a dirty player.
Tom, how does this defensive line cross rank with others in recent years? Is it one of the best in the past decade?
I don't know if I can go. I don't without thinking about it. It's a good group. It really is. To say where it fits, I guess that's going to have to wait and see how it all pans out. But it's a good group. I think there's tackles and ends, so it's a good group.
Is there anything happening on the college level you think that's helping to develop them more, or is it just
I think it's just one of those things. I really do. One year you'll have a ton of wide receivers or a bunch of running backs, and other years you won't. So I just think it's just one of those years. There's defensive linemen. Yeah, nothing's changing for us. Yeah, we're going on like business as usual. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't. And there's 6 guys that are gonna. There's gonna be one of them there, and we just don't know how things are gonna work.
What are the qualities that you think make for a good quarterback coach, especially when developing young talent?
I think it's if you have a young quarterback, you need somebody that knows the position, that's done it before. I think that's been around. I think in our case, we have Mark Whipple, who he knows the West Coast. He was with us in Philadelphia, and I think it's a big thing where he can take a young quarterback and kind of teach him the offense, which he knows when things show up on defense or receiver wise. He knows he's been there and he can adjust and tell them how to handle this. If they bring these guys, this is how you're supposed to do it, and because he knows it. But I think you have to have a demeanor where the kid's going to make some mistakes, and you just have to be able to live through those and work with them and just try to make him a better player.
Cam Newton made a comment about wanting to be an icon in the entertainer. Does that raise a red flag to you as a GM?
No, it really doesn't. Now with the Twitter and everything, everybody's a star now. When you look at all the players, and so it's I think Cam is a guy that he knows football is the main thing, and if the other stuff happens, that's fine. The off season, that's up to him. But I think football, he knows football's the deal, and I think he's willing to spend the time to do it.
Tom, with the change to the 4-3 defense, with the guys that are on your roster now, do you have a feeling of
Arkansas quarterback Brian Mallett
Yeah, we do. I don't. Brian, not going to get into that, but yeah, we do have a pretty good idea of how we're going to do things, and hopefully we add some players, before we get to that point. But we have guys. I think we have good enough guys that we can move them around at both tackle and end. Tell you what, he's obviously a super productive guy. Sack wise, he's legit, and he's a bigger guy. Where he's I was talking about the undersized guy. This guy's a big guy that can rush the passer. So anytime you can get a guy like that, you'd have to be interested. That's yeah, I can see that, but that's obviously a big comparison because Julius had having a heck of a career. So I think that's probably a little wait and see there. But no, I can see why they're talking in similarities. I think Brian's got a bright future for us. I really do. He's obviously he can catch the football. He's a bigger guy, and I think he fits very, very well into what we're doing offensively. We run a lot of slants and shallow crossing routes, and I think he's very, very good at that. So I think he's going to be good for us. I think he did. He didn't catch a ton of balls, but I really do. We saw improvement, and I think he's got a chance to be a good player. I really do. I think I kind of disagree with that. I don't think we have a one blazing guy, but I don't think our receivers are slow by any stretch. I really don't. I think, both those guys, Robisky and Massaquoi both came out, and I think they both ran pretty well. So, I don't know if we have a complete burner, but I don't see us as a slow wide receiver group. There's a lot of things. Obviously we went through 3 quarterbacks. The receivers weren't involved a ton in our passing game, and we ran the ball a ton. So we weren't throwing the ball a zillion times a game, and I think we spread the ball at the tight end, the running back, even our slot receiver Stuckey caught a bunch of balls. So I think it's just a matter of we weren't saying we're going to make sure these wide receivers catch balls. It just didn't happen. A good football player. There's no question why people are talking about him. He's a heck of a football player. He plays hard. He can rush the passer. I think he can do a lot of things that you're looking for in a defensive lineman. Yeah, well, and I think like I told you earlier that I think you talk to a bunch of different people. Some people probably will have him as the best defensive end, and so I think it's obviously it's whatever team thinks he's really good, they have a chance. If they're picking up there, they'll take him. If not, they probably won't. Yeah, I think he can play in a 3-4. He can play in a 4-3. I think he can play tackle in a 4-3. So he's in that. Yeah, he can do it. He's a big kid that I think he is very versatile. And I think it's good for him because a 3-4 team or a 4-3 team could take him. I don't think so. I really don't. Nope. I think he could be a defensive tackle for us, and I think he'd be good at it. I really do. Yep. Yeah. No, I've grown up with Bill since I was 2 years old. But no, I think he's an excellent football coach. He's been a coordinator of 2 different teams. He's coached almost all the positions. He's been with a 3-4. He's been a 4-3. I think he'll be a tremendous asset for Dick and for our football team. I think he's going to really do a great job with our linebackers, and I think he can help with Dick with a lot of different things. If Dick has any questions about 3-4 stuff, if some teams go hybrid 3-4, mix it around, and Billy's very capable of doing that.
Guys, too much time.
Dwayne Ward too.
Yeah, he's a oh yeah, he's a typical, it's all of our coaches, they love everybody, so they're very excited. During these interviews, last night was the offensive line mainly, and they want everybody, so it's a good thing though. We good?
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.